What's going on today, everybody? I hope you're having a fantastic day. I know I am. We're working on this dirt scooter again, getting it ready basically for the winter, and I thought it'd be a perfect time since I've had a couple people asking me about the old wiring on this bike. We go through kind of a quick run through. I've been trying to find my schematic for it with no luck, so I'll have to steal it from another video, but we'll go over generally what we got going on with all these lights. So without further ado, let's get to it. So if you guys have been following along for a little bit, you know that I turned my YZ 450 FX into a street bike, conversion bike, whatever you want to call it, supermoto. I can switch back and forth, but the main thing is I wanted to be able to still ride the dirt if I wanted to ride dirt, and ride street if I want to ride street. I do have a street bike, but it's a lot of fun to just bomb this thing around town, just mess around with. So we've gone ahead and made it pretty much street legal. I've got lights on it, and horns, and turn signals, and brake lights, and running lights. So it does have everything it needs to be street legal. And let's go ahead, and I've gone ahead, added some other lights to it. Technically, all you really need are these fork lights. They're not great at night. This number plate light is way better, but it works out perfect because these are actually my turn signals. So if we go ahead and turn these on, there you go. We've got our turn signals as well as lights. Just an added light. So we'll go through. I guess I'll go through over the specs and kind of where things are at, how the controls work, and then kind of dive into the wiring a little bit. So as far as controls go, you've got your clutch side, your left hand. This is my clutch. I've got my kill switch just to be on the safe side. If anything happens, I can just run the kill switch. And then my mode select, not really super important to be up here, but it was convenient, so I put it there. I've got my mirrors down here. They work okay, but it's kind of hard seeing directly behind me when I'm riding. I can see off to the side a little bit, but they're not perfect, but they're there to make the bike legal. And then I've got this little button thing for everything that I need to do. So I've got a green one as our horn. It's really annoying. We've got our lights. The lights are the main ones. The hoop lights, and then the rear lights underneath. If I go ahead, turn them on, so that turns the brake lights on. So this works out great because I can still use my turn signals if I don't have my lights on. Both my turn signals still work, but I can have lights on if I want or not. The other side is the headlight. The number plate I wired up separately because I wanted it to be able to be on whenever I wanted it to be on. And we've got low beams, and then if we drip down, high beams. So it's got two settings, 3 bulbs. The low beams are just 2, and then there's off, and then high beams are 3. So again, we've got our low beams, and then off, and then our high beams. The switch is fine. I kind of wish the high beams and the low beams didn't turn everything off, but it is what it is. So that kind of goes through the left side. We've got horn, lights, turn signals, left and right. And then that's really all the street stuff that we have. I had to remove my starter. My starter usually goes right here. So I moved it to a new location that's kind of hidden, but that works out great because I don't have a key for the bike. So you could just start it up and take off if you want. So I hid it to make it a little bit harder to steal. On the right side, we've got our headlights. It's just a rocker between low beams and high beams. Those are the ones we just talked about. So that's the controls on the right, and that's really it. We've got our brake pedal down here. And our brake pedal has a pressure sensor in it. That pressure sensor actually runs the brake light back here. So whether the bike's on or off, the brake still works. Now, I didn't install one on the front, so if I pull the front brake lever, it doesn't work, which is a feature that I wanted to have on there. I wanted just to be able to tap the brakes and let people know behind me, hey, I'm slowing down. and still be able to kind of slow down without having the lights come on sometimes. So it is what it is. I could put another pressure switch up on the front, but it's just more weight that I really don't care to have on the bike. So that's kind of the general functionality of everything, kind of where my buttons are, how I can do things while I'm riding, and everything's accessible, minus the start. I mean, the start is hidden, but we only need that once when we start. Everything else, if we get into a problem, we can turn it off, we can turn the lights off, we can turn the lights on, we can switch things. But that's pretty much it. I can do everything while I'm riding. That's the main focus you want when setting this up, is what do you want when you're riding, and what can you sacrifice when you're not riding. As far as the front lights, turn signals, the rear brakes and turn signals, I forgot to say this does have turn signals on it too, but those ones are really, really easy. You want your power and ground, your red and your black. Those will be your all-time. So the black's easy. All your blacks go to a ground. You can do a central ground, or you ground it all at once, or you can ground it to the frame. It's an aluminum frame, a cast aluminum frame, so it's not really the best conductor. So I went ahead and gathered all my grounds as best I could. There's a couple that are just kind of, it was more annoying than not, but I gathered all my grounds and ground them all to one place. That makes it nice and concise. But the ground's easy. That's your blacks. That's your blacks on almost everything. 9 times out of 10, it's your black on 12 volt. That's your ground. So same with the back, the rear tail light, front headlights, turn signals, ground, black. Okay. Ground's easy. Next one on the fronts, your turn signals, and let's do the lights first. So the always on lights, or the lights with my button. So up on the controls, they have certain pinouts that go certain places. It'll come with the what controls what, but it's real easy to figure out kind of with an ohm meter or voltmeter on ohms. You can figure out if it's grounding or not. But the reds on the 2 headlights, turn signal, I don't know what to call them, the turn signal headlights. The red is what's going to power the clear or the white part of the LEDs. The easiest way to check all this stuff is get yourself a 9-volt battery. The easiest way to check all this stuff is get yourself a 9-volt battery. It's enough power to power it, but it's not enough power to blow it up. If you start going like one of your drill batteries, if you start doing one of these, this one's 18 volt. 18 volts on the high side for LEDs. So stick with the lower voltage. 9 is enough to get it going, but not enough to blow stuff up. Small pin, positive. Big pin, negative. If you can't remember, it's usually on the side somewhere. Small pin, positive, okay? So your small pin, we'll turn our small pin and our big pin on. This is really hard to do one-handed, but lights come on. Lights, easy enough. Ground, and then yellow, that one's going to be your turn signal. So we'll put our ground on and then do our turn signal. Doesn't really show up that well, but trust me, it's working. Ground. There you go, turn signal. So that's easy enough to check, easy to wire up. You want your turn signals. Now, these ones are exactly the same, right and left, exactly the same. It's because you can switch them, right and left. It doesn't matter which side you go to, but it does matter which one you hook up to. So a yellow and a green are usually your turn signals. On the button pad, I believe that yellow is your left and green is your right. I'd have to double check that. I'm second guessing myself, but yellow is usually one side, green's the other side, and once you figure that out, you're gonna have yellow and green on here the same. So you've got on our rear tail light, yellow and green turn signals, easy enough. red and black, power. Now the white one is actually your, I believe, trailing, or like your always on lights. But anyways, you want to make sure whichever one you put on where, that it's going to be for that side. Best advice is you can go ahead, set this up, set this on your fork, get it in there. I'd put my switch on, I'd put these on, and I'd put my tail light kind of where I want to. I wouldn't stick my tail light quite yet, but these ones aren't going anywhere. They're going to be there or not. So I would go ahead, put my controls on, run my wires, get it close, and on my bike, it's all right underneath like your left knee. Underneath the left side is where the majority of all my stuff is connected. That's where my horn's at. That's where all my connections are. It's just easy to take off the plastic right there, that one plastic, and then you have access to everything. So that's another thing. Make it easy for you to service in the future. Yellow, again, test it. Get the button on there. Get these on and test it before you final set, before you final cut. I just wire tie them together or just wrap them around each other, make sure they're touching, and test it. Make sure that it's doing what you want. Left is actually left, right is actually right. That's where I messed up with the rear, because left and right is going to matter how you set this cable up. If it's on this way, it's going to be left and right one side, and then you flip it. Well, now you need to flip the green and the yellow because left and right are now backwards. So really pay attention to how you want to run your wires. Again, I ran this one down the passenger side, the left side, however you want to say it. The left side of my bike is where all my wires are ran. So this actually comes through the back and sits like this. If I'm on the bike, it sits like this with my wire on this side running the left side of the bike. The horn is going to be hard to show because I don't really want to take all this stuff off, but it is tucked back behind this regulator, and then I have all my grounds coming up and grounding right here on this frame bolt. I know that it's touching this frame, and I know that this frame is touching the battery, so I know that's got ground to it. But you can kind of see the pin in the back. This pin right here is my horn. So horns are a pass-through. It takes power on one side, goes through it, and then grounds it, and that's what gives it the horn, or gives it power to it. So you need power and ground. One side goes to ground, right to the frame. You notice the two wires that were attached there. One of them's my main harness, and one of them's for my horn. The other one is all the way up at the buttons. Remember the green button that I pushed down? That one's my horn. That one sends power through and to the horn, and then the horn grounds itself. So the horn has two wires, a red and a black, and that's how it gets power or makes noise, is sending power through it and grounding it. Easy enough. One wire coming from the buttons to the horn, through the horn to the ground. Horn's easy. The headlights, now we have to hook the headlights up to the front and the rear because we need lights on both sides. Trailing, or not trailing, but running lights, I guess would be the best term. So we want the white on the front, which was the red up on the front forks, and then the black, or the back, we need the running lights, the low lights, because we want our brakes to be brighter. When we brake, we want it to be bright. It will supersede the other lights, I guess. So on the tail lights, the red and white are the ones we kind of got to differentiate between and figure out what goes to where. And I believe the white is the running lights and the red is the brake. So let's just double check with our battery here. We've got we've got the white one, and then we've got the red one. So the red is definitely a little bit brighter. It's a secondary system, so the red one is the one we want for our brake. So the white one is the one we're going to connect to the fronts, red, and that will give power to both as our running lights when we click the light button. Now the light button has an output wire, and we need to connect the back and the front two all together and that wire. So there will be 4 connections in one spot to get power to this one wire and to the front 2 wires. Hopefully you're following along with this, because it's kind of like you just get into it, start knocking things off the list. Honestly, do the grounds first and then work on the easy things. Work on the easy things, get the easy things done, tie in where you need to, and just make one system done. One system done. But I digress. Now, the red will have to go to the brake. Now, the brake gets power from the pressure switch. So I believe the pressure switch needs power on one side, and once you push the brake down, it bridges that connection and then sends power to the red, and then the red will go through the ground and so on. But that pressure switch needs power from the battery. I think it's a constant power. It has to be a constant power, because otherwise it wouldn't work if the lights weren't on. So from the positive terminal to the pressure switch, through the pressure switch turns on the lights. What else do we have? I think that's kind of it. We've got the headlights. I can go over those since we're here, but it's just power and ground on that one. I think it's actually more like this setup, where there's power ground for low beams, and then ground, it'd be ground for both, power for low beams, power for high beams, which would be my 1 and 2 on my switches. But that one's not as bad to do. And then you got a cable management. That's another huge thing, is trying to figure out where your cables are going to go. I'd advise taking your your plastics off. Take your plastics off and route it as close to the frame as you can, preferably inside the frame. So that's where I ran a lot of my stuff. So there's one wire coming from this system and one wire coming from this system. So my left hand, my main turn, stop, all the other stuff. So my main turn, signal, lights, horns, all comes up through a cable that wraps around the back, comes out the front, down behind the number plate, and then follows all the factory wires coming down. And right here is where I made all my connections, so I could hide it kind of above my radiator and behind the frame. And then my blinkers and little running lights go up the same way. Make sure there's enough slack to turn. That's a huge thing, is this one needs just enough slack to turn, but also enough to make it so it's short. So all my added ones kind of come through. Can't really see too well, but then they follow the frame down by the radiator, and then my horn goes over this way. This is a ground for the lights. My grounding cable's right here, and then everything runs. Here's part of the cable system. It runs up and over this grommet to kind of hold the wires up, runs back along here, and then to the number plate, to my battery. My battery has my quick disconnect, and then it also has the quick disconnect to go to the back light. So everything's ran down this side, tucked behind the frame, and then kind of, if you can use sheathing or even wrap it in electrical tape, black, hides a lot better, because you can definitely tell that I totally didn't do this one, and it sticks out like a sore thumb, especially right here where it doesn't look very factory. If I had 2 black ones, wouldn't be the end of the world, but I'll fix that in another time. I managed to find a printout of my schematic that I used to hopefully help you guys out. So on the left side of the bike, the easiest things to knock out, your left side is yellow. Yellow is left. Remember, this has a yellow wire on it already. Easy. Goes to the yellow wire on the switch. right side is green. Now this one will have a yellow, but it needs to be to the green to be the right one. And same with the rear light. That rear light has yellow and green. Now that's going to depend on how that light is sitting. If you have the wire loom coming out this way, you'll have to switch them. If you have the wires coming out this way, you'll be fine with the yellow and green. So that's easy. Another easy thing is, I believe there were white wires coming off. White wire, one of them's an in to the button, and then it's an out. I think you can swap them. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure you can swap the two white ones. One of them goes to your horn, horn goes to ground. Easy. Power to that wire, and then the blue, power to white and blue. Blue will give you power to your running lights. So you get power through to your switch. Once you push the button will complete the circuit, sends power through to the lights. Remember, this was the red one on the front, all the way back to the white one on the rear. Those are all your lights your running lights that will pop on. Those are easy. Horn taken care of. And now I forgot that the rears don't have blinker relays, so it needs the relay to actually give the pulse of on-off of your blinker. The front ones have them already. The front ones, I believe, will blink on their own, but with this relay, they'll all blink the same, and then the rear has to have this relay. And it's just an inline relay. It goes power from the switch, or it comes power from the battery, and that battery, it will turn it on and off through the switch, and that switch will then power your yellow and green after it goes through the switches stuff. So that will give you your blinker for your yellow and green on both sides. I'm hoping that some of this is making sense to you guys, because it's kind of hard if you don't know how to read a schematic, or if you haven't ever seen one before. It's kind of hard to explain how things go on here. But you got your basic grounds, and then anytime there's a bump, that means it's going over, not connected. Whereas like right here, those are connected. But this means that they're going over that wire. They're not connected, so they're not the same. Coming out and then coming out. Like this wire is just a red wire. It doesn't actually do the bumps, but it's just saying, hey, this does not connect to these two wires right here. This wire connects only right here on this T. So hopefully it makes some sort of sense. And I tried to line it up as the bike. So this would be the left side of the bike, this would be the right side of the bike. Now all my wires run down my left side, and I guess technically the center of the bike would be about right here, right? Because your brake switch is on the right side, right foot, and then you need your right light. So your bike would be kind of like this general area. All these wires would hang out the left side. Again, my horn, I tuck my relay into the same area, and then grounding everything. Make sure everything's grounded to the frame. I did try to color code it to the wires that were actually there, or wires that are actually coming from the switches and from the LEDs, but some of it, like the fronts, they're the same for both sides. It doesn't matter which way you go, so just kind of follow basically the switches. The switches is the main power, or the main color denomination going through the whole schematic. So that's what your switches show. That's what color the switches I have are. That's what they come from the factory. That's what colors they are. So I carried that color code through the whole schematic. So hopefully that helps you guys out. If not, please leave a comment. I'd love to help you out. Love to see if we can get this figured out. I'm gonna get out of here. You enjoy your day. I'm gonna enjoy mine. And again, if you have questions, leave a comment down below. I'll try my best to either get a hold of you or answer it, so we can get this kind of resolved. I'd love to help you out again. So take it easy, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. And you got this. Make big projects, a bunch of little projects, and start knocking it off your list. Little wires, one connection is a project done. Got to think of it like that. All right. Peace. Because it's kind of it's kind of like you just get into it, start knocking things off the list.